All right, this is a real treat. I know that this is a weird night. It's Good Friday. There's a lot of people that got a million other things going on, but we appreciate those of you that showed up and those of you that will tune in to watch this. This is a very interesting performance and talk and discussion, a very intimate thing called Life is a Ride, featuring Chris Joseph and Paul Sanchez. I got everything turned on.
I would like to thank all of Mike's friends for showing up since our friends didn't. But it's Good Friday, man. My friends are all Catholic.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out. And Mike, where is Mike? He's back. He's back there. I just wanted to say, Mike, you and I actually got to know each other. Well, we met a year ago here when Joy introduced us. But then we really got to know each other when we were
Epic email exchanges.
It was text because I was
Text,
driving.
okay.
I was driving to Portland, Oregon, where I live part time. I have my dog. That's enough trouble driving with a golden retriever. And Mike's texting me. It was right after the Biden debate, and we were both very passionate about politics. And I learned he's more passionate than I am. So, anyway, Mike, thanks for having us. And
Thank you.
to my friend Paul Sanchez. Paul Sanchez, ladies and gentlemen, great singer-songwriter. It's 18 years.
I know, crazy, right?
Crazy that we met. I'm actually, in a minute, I'm going to ask you to tell that story. I'm Chris Joseph. You'll hear more of my story later. We're going to talk about the fun stuff like cancer and divorce and, geez, what else? What else can we get them down with? I don't even know.
The Saints.
The Saints, yeah.
It's always a downer.
But I think the theme of what we're going to talk about tonight, what Paul's going to play some songs about, is resilience, rebuilding, renewing, and overcoming challenges that are very difficult to overcome. So I'm thinking maybe we should just start with a song.
Sure. When Chris was faced with the seemingly overwhelming challenge of pancreatic cancer and a really severe diagnosis, he determined two things: that he was going to be around to see his sons grow up was the first thing, and the second was that he wanted to start writing his feelings down. And he'd never been a songwriter, but he sent me these words and said, "Do you think this could be a song?" And I said, "It's already a song, just needs some chords." And I started writing it and then sent the song to my friend Alex McMurray, who's a great songwriter, and he helped me finish it.
Wait
And
a
so,
minute. If you're going to sing Life as a Ride, I want to read what I wrote.
okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Then that's what I was going to start with. So have him. He wrote this beautiful set of lyrics called "Life Is a Ride," which turned into his book about not just surviving cancer, but thriving and surviving more than cancer. He survived the Western medical system.
By the way, we did, I don't know if this is called a show or what we're doing up here, but we did this.
Performance.
We did a performance. We did 4 shows in 2021. It was about a year after this book came out. And we did Washington, D.C., Boston, Philadelphia, and New York. So this is sort of a version, an updated version of that show we did, that performance we did. Anyway, so I'm going to read a passage from my book. And this is when I sent Paul some lyrics. Let's see if I can have enough light. Can you guys hear me if I'm back here this way?
Yeah, they can hear you. It's like his living room, man.
In February 2017, Paul, who had by then become a close friend, was working on his latest album. During February and March, we were texting about that. My health situation, I had just gotten diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in October of 2016. And Paul was going through some difficult divorce proceedings. We were both going through some major life-altering events. So this is all via text. I wrote to Paul, "I hope this river of tears turns into tears of healing." Paul loved the line. Within hours, he'd written a song with that title and given me a co-writing credit. In subsequent tests, I wrote to Paul that his wife was long gone. Boom, he wrote a song. and gave me a credit. He was very generous because I just gave him song titles on that. The day before Paul was to finish recording the album, then tentatively called Tears of Healing, we were texting again. Me, what a ride this is. Paul, life is quite a ride. Me, song for the song for the album? Paul, don't get me started or I'll do it. Me, let's do it. Within minutes of having that text exchange with Paul, I wrote the following. It starts with the first breath and then with a cry. It ends with the last breath on the day you die. And in between, life is a ride. When I sent that to Paul, I was cringing. Truly, I was like, oh my God, I was embarrassed. I thought, what am I giving him song lyrics for? This guy's won dozens of awards. He's recorded 20 albums on his own, several with Cowboy Mouth. My inner voice said, Paul is going to laugh. He's going to hate this. I felt shame that I would even dare to suggest lyrics to an award-winning songwriter. But Paul loved what I wrote, and now I'm going to let him.
It's amazing that your inner voice sounds just like my inner voice. Telling me I suck. Starts with the first breath, and then with a cry. It ends with the last breath on the day you die. And in between, life is a ride, life is a ride, life is a ride, life is a ride, life is a ride. Life is a ride. It's confused and mysterious, and sometimes not fair. And most of the time we're not in charge of what's here or what's there. And in between, life is a ride. 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 Sometimes it goes too high, and sometimes way too fast. You hold on with all your might and wonder how long it might last. And who knows, life is a ride, 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 life is a ride. No idea what the next turn will bring. You're all strapped in, but that don't change a thing. 'Cause after all, life is a ride, life is a ride, life is a ride, life is a ride. Well, it's real and you feel mixed up inside, and half the time you're just terrified. But the door is open just so wide. If you don't slip through, you will be denied of all the things that are on your side. They help you navigate the tide, like some folks who never even tried to live at home in their own hide. Well, you're born, you hear, you live, you die, and along the way you laugh and cry, and you try to think of a reason why, and sometimes you just can't believe your eyes. But you try and you try and you try, but in the end you're just another guy who hangs his head to sigh and sigh, or laugh at yourself and your foolish jive, 'cause you work so hard but you come up shy, and there ain't no way to say goodbye. It's just a bucket of dirt and a shoe fly pie, a bucket of dirt and a shoe fly pie. It's just a bucket of dirt and a shoe fly pie, a bucket of dirt and a shoe fly pie. Thanks very much, Mike's friends.
So that was, when you wrote that was maybe March of 2017. The album came out, I think, April of 2017. So we're kind of going to be jumping forward and backwards. Let's back. So you can tell I don't perform.
See, if
can
Mark
hear me.
Hughes were here, he'd be so jealous.
Let's jump back to 2007, April of 2007, when Paul and I. Anything to make you guys laugh. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah, it was that one. I tried to explain that to him, but nobody listens to the guitar player.
Now we're good? Okay. And you guys can hear me, right? So we're going to jump back to 2007, April of 2007, 18 years ago when Paul and I met. I was attending a backyard jazz fest party called a pottery, which I'm going to let Paul explain what that is in a minute. It was sponsored by a group called the Threadheads, and I don't know, how many of you guys have heard of the Threadheads?
Good.
Some of you. Okay, good, good,
Half.
good. The Threadheads had originally met maybe about 25 years ago on the Jazz and Heritage Fest, the chat board, and it was a board that had various subject threads, and so someone took that and said, we're Threadheads, and I'm not really sure who it was. Anyway, Paul was playing at this backyard party with John Boutte. I knew who John Boutte was because I had seen him perform at Jazz Fest in '06, his famous set when he did Louisiana 19, whatever it is, 27. But I didn't know who you were. I had never seen Cowboy Mouth perform. I still haven't.
Point
but
of pride.
Yeah, that's right. I'm bragging about that. But I was so blown away by both of you that I went up to you guys after the set.
And he said, you guys are great together. You should make a record. And I said, I just lost my house and everything I own. I can't make rent, let alone make a record. And he said, well, how much would it cost? And I told him. And he said, I'll get back to you. That's easy. And being in the music business for a long time, I said, great. And then 2 weeks later, to my surprise, he called and he said, where do I send the check? And I was stunned because I had been in the music business a long time. And he didn't say, you have to sign this first. He didn't say, here's how much of it I own. He didn't say anything other than, you have to promise me as a gentleman that when you sell these, you'll pay me back. Because some of the people who donated money have been out of work for a year, but they put up $5 just because they wanted to help after the flood. And I said, okay, you got it. And then all these people from around the world, not just around the country, but around the world who wanted to help after Katrina, felt empowered because everybody wondered, how can I help? So they said, that was great, let's do another record. And my friend John Boutte was making a record. So I had done mine. I said, okay, I'll do one with John. And they said, great. They did that. And then they said, okay, what else can we do? And there's a band called the Nightcrawlers who have since won a Grammy. And I said, well, they need money to finish. And they said, great, let's help them. From that, they started a not-for-profit record label, which I'm fairly certain is an oxymoron in the English language, where they would donate money to musicians and let them make whatever music they wanted to make. And in the 10 years after the flood, I think they released about 60 CDs. And no one in the mainstream music world will ever know, but they changed the face of the future of New Orleans music because artists who didn't have the money like me to even plan their future were able to keep making music and get it out in the world. And people from around the world, because they were part of this Threadhead Club, were buying it and sharing it with their friends. And so the New Orleans music scene was one of the first things to rebuild after the flood. And the Threadheads were a big part of that.
I mean, one of the beautiful things about that story is it was completely organic. If we would have tried, if we would have planned it, we would have fucked it up.
Yeah, I mean, eventually what they did became this thing called GoFundMe, where people put up money to help. But this was long before that, and this was at the infancy of Facebook and all that stuff. So it was really a sort of groundbreaking idea he came up with that people from around the world responded to and helped.
It was crowdfunding before the term crowdfunding came into be. We didn't know what we were doing.
In fact,
but it
the
worked.
Los Angeles Times wrote an article about this thing that could be the way of the future, and in fact it was.
Yeah.
Yes, we're cutting edge.
By the way, that turned into the record label really doesn't do much anymore, the Threadhead record label, but the Threadhead Foundation is
Became an
still,
official 501c.
yeah, that's a
And they
real
give
nonprofit.
grants to artists in all fields, visual, music, multimedia, really.
And they've given away over like $1 million in grants over the last, I guess, 15 years or so. Do you want to play Be a Threadhead?
Sure. So I remember music loving, fest going. Come on, be a threadhead. Bar hopping, shirt buying. Come on, be a threadhead. Clap your hands, second line. Feels so fine, having a threadhead state of mind. Where pottery going, good times flowing. Come on, be a threadhead. We're butt shaking, bar hopping. Come on, be a threadhead. We're lanyap toting, meet at the show end. Come on, be a threadhead. Slinging beers at Lena C's, dancing with the band, Jello shots and Barry's brownies, hat wearing, bread donating. Come on, be a threadhead. Come on, be a threadhead. Come on, be a threadhead.
Now we get to the dark part of the show where we talk about cancer and divorce, among other things. By the way, I should let you guys know, I've spent a lifetime truly avoiding getting up in front of crowds and speaking. I've been doing it a lot the last few years, doing things like this, talking about cancer, talking about overcoming cancer. Excuse me. So now I feel like this is my job to do it. But it's still difficult. It's still difficult getting up in front of a crowd and doing this. So that's why I have my notes. So I remember what to say. We're going to jump back. That was when we met in 2007. Paul wrote that song actually probably around 2010 or so, for Stu Called New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In October of 2016, I received the devastating diagnosis of stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Anyone who knows even a little bit about this disease understands its severity and its poor outcomes. When I was told I had this disease, it was like receiving a death sentence. I felt overwhelmed by fear, and almost every bit of information I heard put a few exclamation points on the devastating odds. By the way, it wasn't just me who thought that. I mean, everyone I told, and I was very vocal about my journey. I mean, I was posting it on Facebook, I was writing blogs, and I would get what I call the pity look, because you may know this, pancreatic cancer, the odds are 70% don't make it past 1 year, 70%, 90% don't make it past 5 years. Spoiler alert, I'm still here, and it's 8.5 years, which is great. And I plan on being around for a lot longer. Initially, I placed my trust in the unconventional medical system. I thought they know best. They deal with this disease daily. Yet within a few months, my cancer continued to grow. I was doing chemotherapy. My cancer was growing. If any of you have done chemo or know people, chemo it's poison, and it was killing me. And I was convinced that chemo was going to kill me before the cancer would. And so I quit in March of 2017, just 4 or 5 months after I got diagnosed. I fired my oncologist. I have not seen or talked to him since. I quit chemo, and at the time I had no plan B. I didn't even know if there was a plan B, to be honest with you. But I knew I couldn't continue down plan A. That might be a good segue to hear what you were going through, if you want to talk about that. Because you were going through your own very, very difficult journey.
My wife of 20 years had gotten cancer, breast cancer. And I was in Cowboy Mouth for most of our marriage. We had a tour bus, we played rock shows, and I was so in love with her that I insisted she come on the road and live on the road with me. So we used to laugh and say that we didn't just walk between the raindrops, we danced between the raindrops on acid. We had a very blessed life. But she got breast cancer. And for the first time in my adult life, I quit playing music and took a job to see her through it. I didn't sing for 18 months. I developed a neurological condition referred to as dystonia, where when I did go to sing, I couldn't anymore. I couldn't get sound to come out. It was something I would deal with in much greater force later on. But she recovered from her cancer. She got healthy again, and just when I thought life was going to begin again, she announced that the cancer had changed how she felt on the inside, and she wanted out. She walked in one day and said, "Our love is an illusion that ended for me a long time ago." And then she turned around and walked out, and I was left to begin again. What I thought was at the worst moment of my life, I laid on the bed and was ready to just give up. It was so out of the blue. And a voice that sounded like my mother whispered to me, "What are you doing? People look at you. They look at you for hope. Don't do this. Be the light." And so this song came to me. Obviously, we're all free to be the light. It's okay, you can try for a day to be the light. Don't really have to say nothing when you've spent your whole life huffing and puffing. When you have to let go, it's good that you know to be the light. You can do as you please, or you can do it with ease, but be the light. When you get down, take a good look around and be the light. It's all here for the taking, and what you keep in your heart is what you are making. When it feels like you're spinning, start over again and be the light. Be the light for a friend. Be the light if you can. On a dark, sad night, be the light, be the light. It's all that you see, not just you and me, so be the light. We're just a little bitty speck in the great what the heck, so be the light. And try to enjoy some laughter, 'cause life's going by and it's smiling right at you. When it's all said, this could all be in your head, so be the light. Be the light for a friend. Be the light if you can. On a dark, sad night, be the light, be the light. On a dark, sad night, be the light, be the light. Thanks, Joe.
We all have stories. It's what we do with them. It's to see if we can overcome them. People ask me, it's the number one question I get asked, how did you overcome pancreatic cancer? And it's a lot of things. I'm not even sure I know the complete answer, but some of it was love. Some of it was strong reasons for living. My kids were 14 and 12 when I got diagnosed. I wanted to be around to see them graduate high school. I was worried I wouldn't. And obviously I did. One's graduating college in a couple months. One has 2 more years of college. But I also did a lot of non-traditional things. And Joy, I'm not sure what you talked about at your talk that you gave here a few months ago about going off the grid and getting healthy and all that. But I'm going to read you a list of things that I did during my cancer treatment that were non-Western. High-dose vitamin C, ozone therapy, stem cell therapy, mistletoe injections, CBD, acupuncture, chiropractic. There's more. Coffee enemas. And if you don't know what a coffee enema is, just think Frappuccino, and that kind of gives you an idea. Enzyme protocols, intermittent fasting, hyperthermia, which is heat treatment, infrared saunas, having the mercury fillings in my teeth removed. There is more. Psilocybin journeys, which I highly recommend, and countless supplements, enough to, on an annual basis, to fill up a large yacht owned by Jeff Bezos. I probably should change it because he's not very popular right now,
No,
right? Yeah.
no.
I should probably think of another billionaire, but are any of them popular these days?
What's his name? Buffett, Warren Buffett.
Buffett,
The one who
Cuban,
thinks
yeah.
billionaires should actually pay taxes.
All right, well, so we've got 2.
Buffett's quote is, if the billionaires paid taxes, we could have the greatest infrastructure and no homeless people. Yeah, the rest of them aren't listening.
Simultaneous, I was also seeing a therapist, practicing meditation, doing a daily gratitude practice, and immersing myself in nature. Did I do all of these things every single day? Of course not. But all of them were instrumental in helping me overcome this very deadly disease. This might be another time to interrupt my story, because not everyone survives cancer or thrives cancer, but they can still leave a legacy, and their memories remain. And Paul, I want to talk about your niece. I think it's your niece, Laura, right?
My wife. Yeah. As the Doors once sang, no one here gets out alive. So sometimes the lesson isn't so much, 'cause she didn't have the time to navigate the medical system like he did. My wife, after my wife left me of 20 years, I was out in the world drifting and drinking too much and playing every single gig I could get my hands on anywhere but New Orleans. If I could just be anywhere but New Orleans, that was just fine. I didn't want to see places that reminded me of what was. And then I was playing a gig in New Orleans, and my first love from when I was 19 showed up. And she had gotten divorced, and we had broken up because she wanted to have kids, and I wanted to see the world with my songs. And it was 36 years later, and I had seen the world, and her sons were grown men. And we got back together, and we've now celebrated our 6th wedding anniversary. But when we first started dating, her brother was coming to town from North Carolina, and she said, well, my niece, Laura, is 26, and she has a rare brain cancer, so try not to make her too conscious of it, because she's had to have part of her ear removed. And we were at this Mardi Gras party, and we left. I said, well, I guess I didn't get to meet your niece. And she said, no, she was the one in the purple wig. And I was blown away, because she was just like the most life-affirming presence at this party. She had this purple wig on to cover her surgery, but she was having so much fun, and everybody just loved her so much. And she was 26 years old dealing with this, and I hit her up on Facebook to be a friend, and she accepted my friendship. And I found out that she had gone to Rishikesh in India, where the Beatles studied meditation, to study meditation with a Maharishi at the age of 24. She was this incredible being who was faced with this amazing challenge. And I tried to turn her on to Chris's journey and the books that he had read to help him find his path. But she was already deep into Western medicine and committed, and her parents, of course, were really committed to try and keep her alive through Western medicine. But what amazed me about my friendship with her was that every day, here's this person dealing with the inevitable. But her posts were a walk in the woods with her lover, or a friend who had just gotten married, or a friend who just had a baby. It was a life-affirming post every single day. Her final Facebook post was, "My cup overflows with love and blessings." And her mother told me at her funeral that she was in such pain that she had to crawl to her computer to put that post up. So I thought that, what an earth angel. Because not every, we all go. But when it's your time, will you have the grace to show your loved ones not to be afraid for you, and more importantly, not to be afraid for themselves? And will you have the grace to not die, but to live every single moment that you can? And when she went, like a lot of cancer patients, families who've lost cancer patients, they post, "Live like Laura." I was at her funeral, and her friends were talking about how obnoxious she was, that she loved to do things like sing in public just to embarrass them. She was life-affirming long before she had to be. It's who she was. Could be just a dream that ends too soon, or when I play a sad, familiar tune that maybe makes me stop and catch my breath. When I wanna run, I know to sit. Instead of trying to rush, I wait a bit. And then remember what I can't forget. I wanna live like Laura, love like Laura. I wanna learn to rise above like Laura. I wanna see my life in a different way. I wanna laugh like Laura, smile like Laura, travel 10,000 miles like Laura. I wanna be in love with living every day. Like bursting in a song when I'm in a crowd, living my life big and right out loud. Like looking into the eyes of the likes of me, and for a moment making it all right, reminding me to try and be the light. She wears her heart out on her sleeve, and I want to live like Laura, love like Laura. I want to learn to rise above like Laura. I want to see my life in a different way. I want to laugh like Laura, smile like Laura, travel 10,000 miles like Laura. I want to be in love with living every day. Could be just a dream that ends too soon, or when I play a sad, familiar tune that maybe makes me stop and catch my breath. I want to live like Laura, love like Laura. I want to learn to rise above like Laura. I want to see my life in a different way. I want to laugh like Laura, smile like Laura, travel 10,000 miles like Laura. I want to be in love with living every day. I want to live, and I want to love. My cup overflows with love and blessings. I want to live and love like Laura. I want to live like Laura. Thanks, y'all. She was lovely.
That was also in 2017 as well, because that showed up on the Life is a Ride album, as I recall. I spend these days, I'm a cancer coach now. I try to teach people how to get healthy because it's the people who are trying to get healthy. They're the ones who dramatically increase their odds of not just surviving cancer, but thriving with cancer. And that's the goal, I think. Surviving isn't good enough. Cancer has taught me so much of that experience. I mean, I wish I didn't have to go through it to have learned these lessons, but I mean, I'm just going to tell you a few of these things that I can remember off the top of my head. One is that I don't look at cancer as fighting cancer or battling cancer or fuck cancer. And I know that's a popular thing and it's widely used and it's used in the press or when someone dies of cancer, the line is so-and-so waged a long battle with cancer or a brave battle with cancer. I don't look at it that way. I don't want to fight my own body. I didn't want to fight my own body. I look back 8.5 years ago now, and I think cancer actually gave me an opportunity. And I know that might sound strange, so just go with me here for a minute. But it was an opportunity to get healthier. And thankfully, I listened and I took it. And so that's one of the things I teach people to change their how they're thinking about when they get diagnosed with a chronic illness. I teach people to take charge of their health. Do not be passive. I teach people how to eat healthier. One of the things I talk to people about in general, and it always raises people's eyebrows, and I can't really see right now, so I don't know if your eyebrows are going to be raised, but whenever I do my talks like this, I bring up COVID. And it's not to be controversial. I don't bring up vaccines or masks or lockdowns because that is still too triggering for people. But I bring up COVID because COVID shined a light on how unhealthy this country is. And we really need to do something about it. I know people like Joy are working really hard to educate people. It's now my mission to educate people on how to get healthier. And so, yeah, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, whether I get hit by a bus tomorrow or I live another 30 or 40 years. That's what I'm going to do. Do you have one more song in you? Yeah. And then I think we'll open it up to questions.
I would like to do this song as a young man here tonight, the youngest man in the room, who's celebrating his 21st birthday. He's had a couple of drinks, and yet he has been really, really lovely and cool about all the heavy stuff and the sentiment and a grown man crying while he's singing. So I'd like to do this for Owen to say, you sound like a really inquisitive mind who's in touch with staying in shape, and I want you to know that the entire thing goes by like that.
Jesus, yes. Yeah.
So remember that, and do what you love. Don't let anybody talk you into doing what you don't love or waste your time doing what you don't love, because before you know it, I thought growing old would take longer. So many things I couldn't wait to see. But the years roll by and time just flies, and it's all catching up with me. The plans I used to make were full of dreaming. I thought I knew what life would be. But spring don't last, and another winter's passed, and it's all catching up with me. Hope is a boat, and I'm standing in the bow, looking to find what I want to somehow. The good life is now. The good life is now. The good life is right now. Me and my friends who are gonna change tomorrow, but yesterdays are filled with gonna be's. And time I find is a concept of the mind, and it's all catching up with me. Hope is a boat, and I'm standing in the bow, looking to find what reminds me somehow. The good life is now. The good life is now. The good life is now. Thanks for listening. It's been good to see you. And I believe we can agree the hour is late and it's much too late. It's all catching up with me. It's all catching up with me. It's all catching up with me. You guys were lovely to be here. Thank y'all very much. Thank you, Chris.
A couple of things before we open up to see if there's any questions. I'm assuming all of you will be around for Jazz Fest next week. You're playing next Saturday?
First Sunday.
First
Sunday, yes. I'll be doing a set with Alex McMurray in the Rhythm Emporium tent at noon, and then I'll be with my band on the Lanyap stage at 3.
First Sunday, noon, and at 3 o'clock. Yeah, catch both of those
Singing
sets.
Life is a Ride, probably first song at the Rhythm Emporium.
I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Also, we're giving away merch. How's that? Books.
Which is why none of my merch is here. No, I just forgot. It's Holy Friday. My wife wanted to walk the 9 churches, and I did, but I'm 65, and so I was exhausted by the time I got home. The first thing I did was pee, because being 65, the only time I don't feel like I have to pee is when I'm actually peeing. And then I went to sleep. And I woke up and went, oh, I have to get here, and forgot everything. No merch for me.
By the way, I totally forgot. Paul, we have one more thing to do. I wrote a note to remember to talk about this, and then I forgot. Let's talk about 9 Lives.
Sure. Well,
yeah.
they're here, and they're not leaving until Mike says so.
Tell them about the journey of 9 Lives.
There was a book written after Katrina by a journalist from New York called 9 Lives, and it was a New York Times bestseller. It told the story of New Orleans, ostensibly after Katrina, but really it was between Hurricane Betsy and Hurricane Katrina. So it was the 40 years of my life, really, of my becoming, because I was 46 when Katrina happened. So I was fascinated with this book, and a friend suggested we turn it into a musical. So we spent a year and a half writing songs. Chris raised money through a Pepsi grant and through the Threadheads, around $150,000 for us to record like a Jesus Christ Superstar, a rock opera. But it was the history of New Orleans in 24 songs. And it was lovely. We performed it at La Petite Theater in 2011. It's going to air this summer on WYES, that performance, as part of that Katrina anniversary programming. And it has some of the great New Orleans talents like Brian Batt, who's a TV star and then stage actor, and all the great New Orleans. Irma Thomas is on it, Alan Toussaint's on it, and Broadway stars like Michael Cerveris. So it was a lovely project. We've been working ever since then. Chris has acquired the rights and has been working to bring it to either a film or a television series. We'll see how that journey goes, but the entire journey was something other than being in a rock band like Cowboy Mouth, something other than writing acoustic guitar songs. It was, we went to Broadway, we performed it off-Broadway, we performed it in Los Angeles, we performed it in New York, so it was quite the journey, and I'm grateful to him, and it's not over.
No, it's not over. We are really working hard to make it a mini-series. It's just a horrible time in the TV and movie business right now. Really,
By the
really
way,
horrible
if you're
time.
a music fan, and if you're friends of Mike, you are. This is a compilation of all the artists that the Threadheads released in the early days. So some of the greatest artists in New Orleans are on the CD, and he's giving them away.
Yeah,
so
2 of them. Yeah.
if you have a CD player, come grab one. Owen doesn't.
Yeah, we have to explain what a CD is. Do you guys have any questions, comments? Go ahead. I have mixed feelings. RFK Jr.? I have mixed feelings.
The JFK Jr. is a little late for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's at the bottom of the.
I think what he's doing to bring attention to what's going on with our food systems is important. I think that the pharmaceutical companies and the processed food companies are against him. But anything else he's doing, I'm not going to comment on. But great question. Sure.
Can everyone hear me? Because, okay, because cancer being the thing that it is really your body saying, I'm out of whack, your immune system doesn't work right. Because what cancer is when cells mutate and then something clicks and it goes terribly wrong. But your body is constantly searching for those evil cells, and it has cells that kill those cells. And so when your body becomes out of whack, the immune system gets overwhelmed and is trying to fight other things, when you're unhealthy, and it doesn't work right. So I think this terminology of fighting cancer and battling cancer is the wrong way to look at it. And when you make that shift in your mind to give your body what it needs to continue to work correctly, it just totally changes. It changes a lot. Now, this doesn't say, I don't mean to say 100% of the time this is going to be your experience. You get cancer, you make your body work right, and everything's going to be great. That's not the case, but, because different things affect our bodies. But thinking about it differently can change a lot in one's experience with different diseases.
So for those that don't know, Joy is a nutritionist, and she's also a nurse. She's in school of nursing now, so you're kind of going at it from a bunch of different angles there. So it's not just an opinion. You've got a lot of many years of experience behind that. Oh, she ate. So she ate some Fritos tonight, so therefore maybe.
She was outed. Also, I want to give credit. I mean, there's so many amazing things about Western medicine. I mean, if I was hit by a car, take me to an emergency room. I've had cataract surgery. I'm 68. I don't wear glasses. I've had back surgery. I've had shoulder surgery. For orthopedic stuff, it's amazing. I just think it's lagging on the chronic illness side of things. I think they're far too into symptom management, and they're not looking at prevention and root causes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
One of the great spiritual leaders of our times was Ram Dass, who wrote Be Here Now. And he began as a psychiatrist. And he said he realized eventually that as a psychiatrist, he did not want to cure his patients. He needed them to stay unbalanced, so they needed him so that he could keep charging them a fee. So there was no cure. There was a doctor needing a client.
Yeah, and I'm a software engineer, right? So we have similar things in my field. Yeah, just like the entire antivirus industry, right? They exist to protect people's computers from viruses, but if they do it too well, they put themselves out of business.
Do you guys remember the movies Airplane, Naked Gun? Love them. They were great movies, right? They were directed and written by the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams. They came out with a book a couple years ago about the making of Airplane. The reason I bring that up is at the end of the book, they all talk about what they've been doing in the last few years. And Jim Abrams, one of the directors and writers, wrote about how his son at age 1.5 was severely epileptic. And for a 1.5-year-old kid, they had several surgeries. They were giving him these major drugs, and nothing was working, nothing. And it was horrible. Can you imagine watching your 1.5-year-old son going through all this stuff? This is in the early 90s. Jim went to research at the UCLA library. It was pre-internet, and he found the ketogenic diet. And the ketogenic diet had been used to treat epilepsy for decades, decades and decades and decades, and no one told the Abrams family. He had to find out for himself. They got that 1.5-year-old, by then 2-year-old kid on a ketogenic diet. He's 35 years old now. He's fine. He's thriving. And so there are things that just go beyond Western medicine that we're really not told about. And that's one of my missions now, is to just let people know.
One of the great things you wrote recently in your Substack was that when a doctor says to you, when you're dealing with cancer and a doctor says to you, that's all that I can do, he's not saying, what was the line?
I object when doctors give patients, when they say you have 6 months to live or 9 months to live. First of all, they don't know. They're not gods. They're going based on their experience. They're going based on statistics, but they don't know. What they should be saying to patients is, I don't know what else I can do for you.
That's it.
Because that's honest. That's really honest. Then they could give hope.
You said, I've reached the limits of what my training
I've
can
reached
do
my-
for you.
Yeah, I've reached
That's
my
what they
limits.
really should say.
Yes,
Okay, I've done all I know how to do. That doesn't mean that's all you can do for you.
yes, exactly. And
That's
oftentimes
very
there-
important.
Oftentimes there are other things you can do.
Beginning with believing.
Having hope. They need to give patients hope. They do not need to-
1943, Woody Guthrie's New Year's resolution list. Number 19, keep hope machine running.
Thank you guys so much for having us. Oh, one more question. So I've certainly seen religion help people. I am not a religious person. I was not raised with any religion whatsoever. I mean, I never went to a church or temple or anything like that. The first time I opened a Bible was when I was 18 years old in a religious studies class in college. So religion has never been a big part of my life, but I do respect that it is for other people. And I've seen it help. Yeah, actually, yeah, I have seen it help. I would just say it wasn't part of my journey, though.
What do you think about this AI, the AI technology? Because it's got some interesting implications with respect to being able to identify patterns that regular humans may not recognize in the field of medicine.
I think I've been using AI in my cancer coaching. I think it's an incredible tool. Some people are afraid of it. Some people say it's going to mean the end of the world. And I look at AI the way I look at radio or television or computers. I mean, think about television. It's used for entertainment and it's used for propaganda.
Right.
Social media is used for entertainment and it's used for propaganda. The same thing with AI. There are some really, really great things about AI, and I do use it for my practice. So I'd say, yeah, it can. I think it can help people on their health journeys. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Paul. It was great having you guys come out. And anytime you want to come back and augment the performance with more that you've learned, I know that we would definitely be interested. Is there anything that you want to, for people that may be watching at home online, is there anything that you want to promote, any web addresses or any other things like that?
Yeah. Paul, you still have your website? Yes. I don't.
Yeah,
get
here,
on
Paul.
social media?
Google me. I'm old. Paul Sanchez, New Orleans, you'll find out everything you need to know.
Paul says Google Paul Sanchez, New Orleans.
My website is Terrain Navigators. Terrain like the terrain. Navigators.com.
All right. Well, thank you all. Well, we are going to continue the party and the festivities here at the PC, but we're going to shut the stream down. We thank everybody for tuning in, and we thank Paul and Chris for coming. Thank you.